So when power's down, this might be the best contraption to give you water when the grid does fail.
Do you recall when we were young, running from all things at once, without thinking twice?
It's a beautiful day here today, isn't it?
It is.
So we've got the crew out today. I'm going to talk about this this tubing that we're using, but this is dark, so that's why we're not going to do a lot of filming in here. But this is our well house, and for so long we've been talking about doing a video on our hand water well pump. Like any other water well, this is our tank, the electrical coming into it, and this is actually our well right here, just like any other well. So we just pulled our line up, and it's sitting right on the edge, so it gives me access to the pipe. That's the main thing. So you need to find your well access. Most people, when they talk about doing wells, is they think this is the well. Well, this is just the tank that holds the water. Some of the lines running to the house. But this pipe is actually the well right here. This is running off a 220 line. It's hooked directly to the grid. And of course, we love it hooked to the grid because we have water in the house with no issue. But the problem is, if the grid goes down, if you have water issues and you cannot get the grid to come back on, or you don't want to use your generators to get it running, because it is pulling a lot of amperage, it is pulling a lot of volts because it's 220. So it is going to pull a lot on your propane tank, especially if it keeps on filling up this tank and running the submersible pump. So we really wanted to have a water well for sure, and that way we're not focused on a city well or rural well to run our water into our home, but we had a full sustainable water well just on our property. The benefit of having a hand version to getting water out, it goes old school, is to make sure that we can always have fresh water out of our well. Now our well is about 150 foot deep where our submersible pump sits. However, we were hitting water at about 15 to 20 foot down. So when we made our hand pump, we actually did it with a 100-foot line. We cut it off, and now we have about 50-something foot. Now we can always add to it, and actually, as we always talk about redundancy, we have a secondary water well just to make sure that if something happens on this pump, we can get another one and get it open and started. So we've got this topped off. The submersible pump is all the way down about 150 foot. Remember, you're not trying to move your submersible pump. If you've got your submersible pump there and you're hoping that the grid kicks back on, you want to leave it like it is. So you want to make sure your hand well goes before and goes on top of your submersible pump. You're not trying to go beside it. You're just trying to go beside the pipe that's actually running down here to pump the water out. So our goal is not to actually take away from the submersible pump. We want to leave it there. We're just going to get water from on top of where the submersible pump is. Now, most people who dig wells know that you're going to hit water way before you actually stop with your submersible pump. Your submersible pump's going way down deeper. For instance, as we talked about, we were hitting water roughly around 15 to 20 foot, even 30 foot. We had good water, but of course our water tables drop. Drought comes, the last thing we want to do is depend on water at 30 foot. So we're not shallow as 30 foot, even though we had water there. We have our submersible pump close to 120 foot. But if you're just looking to get water out to be able to utilize, to boil, to flush commodes, not only to drink, you don't have to go that deep. So you need to find out where your water table is on your well. The best way to do that is you can take a piece of PEX or take a piece of line, go down with about 50 to 100 foot, because you can buy it pretty cheaply, and it will show you where you're going. Mark your line, and then that way as you put it in, you'll tell how wet it is, because when you pull it back out, you're going to have moisture on your line. So that shows you how deep you need to build your hand pump or your hand well. So we've got the well access open. We keep ours covered in here just for safety of our well when it gets cold. Now I'm going to show you what we're working with and show you what our hand well looks like. Now this is something you can build or you can buy. Now we're not affiliated with the company that we're going to be talking about. There are companies that sell each part of this that will help you build your manual pump or your manual hand well for your water well that you have sitting here. Now hopefully we can always have the grid. Hopefully we have ways to run it with solar or propane. But if all else fails and we want to use a hand well, we have it here at our home. Are you enjoying a seat in the shade? this is what our hand pump for the well actually looks like. Now, our line is 50 foot. Now, we hit water at 12, as we talked about, but let's go to the end that we're putting inside the well. Now, we don't want to go as deep as the submersible pump, so you need to find out how deep your submersible pump is, because you don't want to cause any issues to it, or hit it, or run into it. You want to make sure you're staying above that at a pretty good level. So where this cap's on, it's just a simple PVC. This is about 2 foot piece that goes down in here. On this little piece of PVC, you've got these weights. You can buy these at a hardware store too. So we have the actual connector. Inside here is an O-ring and spring there. So you can buy this all at one piece. This just goes back together like this. You don't actually have to have this, but it's good to have just in case you do have trash in the line, or it's an old well, or you're trying to keep from hitting something like submersible well or bend your pipe. This just helps you kind of keep it and get it weighted. The more weight you have here, the easier it is to go into the actual well itself. So here again, the weights, got the PVC piece. Now this is just a quick connect from the PEX to the PVC. Very, very simple connection here. You can pick up at any hardware store. So let's undo this connector here. This quick connect. All right, you see this line? On the end of this line is what's so important. Now this is what actually builds your suction. This is like any siphon pump. So you can makeshift any siphon pump that you can buy, or any siphon line, to do what this is doing. This is sliding up and down, and that's actually what builds your siphon, your pump, your suction, to pull your water out. This is what's actually building your suction. Now, I'm not saying you have to have this white line in here. However, this line is what's helping siphon out with this PVC. So this slides in and just goes back in there. Your black line is actually what's carrying your water. Let's get that back connected so that's tight again. Let's come to the other end. And this is the clamping mechanism that you can put on the pipe or put wherever you're at and hooking it onto. You could hook it onto the edge of the shop over there, or you could simply just hook it to itself. This is what goes on that 4-inch line going into the ground. Now this pumping mechanism is what we were just talking about. This, you literally can buy this pumping mechanism from any kind of off-grid store or off-grid link. I will try to link, the company that I bought this from is actually out of business, but I will link one that's kind of similar to this. I would challenge you not to try to build this. Then this is not a hard contraption to build. However, you can buy all of this pre-fabbed and pre-done. And as I said, I actually have 2 of these. I will try to link that. Tell them the Max sent you, because that would be really nice of you to do. But basically, this is the pump mechanism. Now, Aiden, come here right quick. So Aiden's gonna help us show you what it's gonna be doing. And as I was telling you, we're gonna go and look at the line. So pump it, show it how it pumps. So that's how it's actually building its siphon. Now you can do this like a straw. So if you did not have that secondary line that's actually siphoning it out and pumping it out, you could put your mouth on it, suck it up, and you just got one big straw in your well. But the reason I like this, so let's take this off again. So you see how he's pulling the line. He's making it go back and forth, and that's actually what's going in your pipe to build the suction. So now let's show you how this bad boy works. We've got this end with me. Now the whole point of this, and one thing you'll learn, is you cannot have this thing tangled up. You can't have any kinks in it, because the kinks will allow that white line not to build a suction. So if you have problems with it pulling, or for instance, if that handle that Aiden's got over there doesn't pull, that means the white line is getting caught up somewhere in this line. You think about it, this is just a PEX tube, so it's not got a lot of structure to it. The line in it is flexible also, so you have to make sure as you're feeding it in your line here that you keep it as straight as possible, and also make sure you kind of have a secondary person help feeding it. If you kink this anytime, or you have a problem with that white line inside, you're not getting water up through this contraption. So let's go ahead and feed it in here. So we'll try to do this one-handed. Over, and that goes in. Weights are gonna help it get down. So as I'm feeding it, Aiden's gonna walk it to me. Now I've hit water. I can feel it actually through my hands of the water get hit on the pump. So I'm only probably about 25 foot deep, but I'm gonna keep on going because it just makes sense. I've got about 10 foot left to go, so I'm about 40 foot in the ground right now. Now watch this. All right, see some water starting to come up. It's building its suction. All right, so you see the water is flowing. Now, as I said, if you did not have this pumping contraption and you just have a simple PEX, just literally use it as a straw and suck it up and build your own suction to go into a vat of some sort. I just like this contraption because it does all the work for you, and it's pretty kindergarten level system here. Now, here's the cool thing. Not that I would complicate this, because I think if we're in an inconvenient situation where we're having to come out and get water anyway, I don't think that's a big deal. But you can also build a contraption here to where that same quick connect line could be long. So you could take this here, this PEX, and you could run it to wherever you want to run it. So that way when you're pumping, if somebody's pumping, this water could be, transferred 50, 100 foot or to your home. So it allows you not to have to feel like you got to fill it up right here. This is so customizable. It helps you customize it to what's best for you. But having this would be priceless and save you a heck of trouble to know you have fresh water in your well. So if you want to take this, run this wherever you need to run it. Now there's companies, and you can look at the more stationary ones. If you're doing this as a only option, or you just want a hand pump, this may not be the option for you because this is not as durable as it could be. So if you didn't have electrical running to your actual water well, I would challenge you to invest in one that's a little bit nicer hand well. They make these in a steel or metal form with a hard pipe going down to where your water's at. That would be more, I think, definitely better to have than this. But this is a good backup for people like us who have the grid hooked into our water well, but we want a secondary option that we can roll up, put up, have upstairs with no worries. We have 2 or 3 extra siphon pumps like this, and also we have a secondary set of PVC already set with weights, with a drainage kind of cover over it, just to make sure that if this one fails, this one gets torn up, this one gets torn or bent, something happens to it, we have a secondary version, because water is key when it comes to survival, preparation. Without water, it's nothing. We have a lot of freeze-dried food, but if we don't have water to hydrate it back, it's going to be for naught. It's not going to be worth anything. So if you do have a well and you've got your well pump there, you need to know the depth of it. You need to know how to get the top off if your top's screwed on, if it pops off like ours. And you need to make sure that if you have an issue like this, I would probably unhook it from the grid. You don't want to have electrical running there. We're just showing you how it works. But say, for instance, it's no good, cap this off, take care of this and get it out of your way, and then hook this to your pipe. Make sure you know the depth. You can add to as much as you need. Now the question is, do you know how to run this?
I could run I don't know how to take the stuff off, but I could pump the pump, if that's what you're asking.
So, and that was another thing I was supposed to say. If you don't have a top to your well like this that allows you to move it, I would challenge you to change that top out. I've seen some tops that are literally one piece, and they are literally tied in with a bolt and screw. Get one of these break open lids to where you literally could just pop it off. It makes it so much easier. So if Miss Mac does need to come in here,
It looks like all you gotta do is pick it up.
all you gotta do is pick it up, because that's how we made it. We got it unscrewed to where all you gotta do is just pick it up.
It doesn't look real complicated. I think I can handle it.
You can handle it?
I can handle it.
This top is key too. You want to make sure that you have access to your pipe and it doesn't take a lot of work. For instance, if Misty come out here, she literally could just take this off. I keep it loose so it allows us to, pick it up and then maneuver that off our hand pump right in beside it. So you need to know the depth of your well, know the depth of where your pump sits, maybe your water table level, and that'll help you build the size hand pump that you need. Now you can buy these from companies at 50 foot, 100 foot, 150 foot, 200 foot. The longer it is, the more fragile the line is going to be. But the PEX or any of this kind of tubing is very, very, very kinkable. It bends and it doesn't do really well. So you want to make sure you have a second set of hands, as we were talking, to where I'm feeding it into the main well here, and then someone's standing way out here and running that line to me. Now ours is easy because ours is about 50 foot. But if you were doing 150, 200 foot, you need to make sure you have 2 or 3 hands helping you work it to keep it to where it can easily get into that well without having issues. So know those few little things. Hopefully those tidbits will help you. But that's not hard, is it? Takes no effort at all, huh?
It doesn't.
And to know you have fresh water for all that freeze-dried food is key.
And for a bath.
And for the bath.
Come seek me